Good morning. First thing I'm going to do today is do a review on this machine. This is from Vevor. It's a AC recovery machine. So I'm going to show you real quick how to use it, or at least how I'm using it. It may not be the proper way to use it, but it works for automotive applications. This entire setup is maybe $450. And when you take into consideration how much Freon you use in an automotive application, if you're trying to save money in the long run by recovering the refrigerant and then reusing it, this will come in handy for you. So this machine does vacuum and it'll do recharge. So in order to do vacuum, you're going to have your gauges hooked up to the vehicle, and then your service port, which this service port and the service port on the Cornwell gauges are a different size. So you'll have to have the adapter, which I do have on my vacuum pump, and it goes on to these threads, and then your bigger gauges service port will fit on here. Thankfully, I do have another set of gauges that have the right size service port. So it's like the service port for a house. Anyways, the first thing you want to do is vacuum your container down here. There's a yellow port here on the side. This guy. You put your vacuum gauge on there. You pull it down to 30 microns. Well, of course, after opening the port up, make sure you close the port back once you reach 30 microns. Once you go to vacuum, you'll want to put on either port. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They both go to the same exact place. I go into the high side, flip it upside down, and open it up. I assume that probably one of those ports are slightly larger on the inside than the other. So the low side's going to be smaller than the high side. Set your tank on your scale. Make sure it's zeroed out. This is the 20-pound container. I never go over 20 pounds, so there's no use in me having the 30-pound container. But zero it out. Make sure that you have a perfect vacuum pulled on it. And then you're going to get ready to start doing your job. So you hook your gauges up. On the recovery side of this, you're going to have this tank flipped over. I don't use the filter when recovering it. I only use the filter when putting it back. So I use the blue hose that came for the filter to be able to connect to the high side here and connect to the outside here to be able to pull the Freon from the vehicle. And then on this side, I use my AC gauges and the service port here. But in order to be able to start all this, you want to, it's going to first be off. Then when you get ready to start recovering it, you're going to go into recovery slow. You can hear it hiss a little bit. And then you're going to hit start. But before you open anything up on your inlets or your outlet side, you're going to disconnect this slightly to be able to let all of the air draw out of the lines. Then you're going to reconnect this side and then unscrew the side that goes to the tank or on the tank. That way you can get rid of that air. It's not going to be easy to get rid of because your hose is short if you're using this hose. I need to find another service port hose. At any rate, there's not going to be a lot of air that flows through that. So if you're sucking all of the air out of here, then there's not going to be any air in here to be able to go back through that hose. when you get started doing the actual vacuum, you'll start off here in recover slow. And then after you've opened your gauges up and you've opened your port up on the tank, then you're going to switch off to recovery fast. I've not used the purge yet because that puts pressure the wrong direction in my opinion. On this side right here, that gauge should stay steady or go slightly up when you go to purge. Well, it doesn't do that. It does pull a better vacuum, but that's not what I need. I need to make sure that there's no air whatsoever on the high side, and that little bit of air there would be present here. Now the gauges that I'm using, I bought these from Amazon because my gauges from Cornwell aren't the greatest anymore. I don't know if you can see in there or not. This has been left out in the weather for a couple days. I have multiple options of refrigerant that I can vacuum down. 134A is one of them. R1234YF is another. And then R404A is the last. So these lines are the same size as that tank and this recovery machine. So I put this gauge over on the low side, this gauge on the high side, and then connect this to the inlet on there. Anyways, it's worked out so far. You want to make sure, again, that this is zeroed out. You can tell that by the scale. It says 0.000. If you remove it for the 20-pound container, it's 15.320 pounds. It's supposed to be 16 pounds, so it may be closer to 16 pounds since it's going in negative. It's subtracting from 0. Anywho, I'm gonna get everything set up here and start pulling a vacuum on this here Toyota. Recover the refrigerant. I'll set up a camera and have another video of it.